We have so much Steelers coverage for you guys today that we couldn't fit it into just one video. So on today's second Steelers video of the day, first we're going to be talking about what Steelers GM Omar Khan said about the George Pickens trade and kind of a surprise press conference earlier today. Then we'll talk about ESPN's Peter Schrager, where he shot down a very popular Steelers wide receiver trade rumor today. And then we'll get into a new wide receiver target that has emerged for the Pittsburgh Steelers that we have not talked about on this channel yet. But before we get into the content today, if you want to give me a follow on X, I greatly appreciate your guys' support. I put out my instant reactions to all the latest Steelers news and rumors that comes out on my X account before I do a video here on YouTube. And of course, we're going to be doing a bunch of content on the Steelers rookie minicamp this weekend. So make sure you guys follow me on X for all of that content, because we're not doing another minicamp video until Monday when we do winners and losers. So everyone that gives me a follow today, this is what I'm going to do. Everyone that gives me a follow today on X at Jack_Sperry is going to get a shout out on Monday's winners and losers video for rookie minicamp for your Pittsburgh Steelers. So now let's start with our first topic of the day here, where Omar Khan, kind of surprisingly, doesn't usually talk to the media at this point in the offseason, but he wanted to address the George Pickens trade and why the team decided to move on from GP in front of the Pittsburgh media today. This is what he had to say about the trade. The trade sort of happened quickly. We had some people inquire during the draft, nothing that really made sense. The Cowboys reached out earlier this week. They proposed something for us to think about. We had conversations internally. We also had some conversations with George's agent. We discussed where things have been with George and where they are and where things could go with George. And this trade made sense for everyone. We just felt that a fresh start for both sides was the right thing. So in other words here, guys, the Steelers had a price that they were willing to let go of George Pickens for, and it was probably a day 2 draft pick. They weren't really getting any trade offers during the NFL draft for a day 2 pick. It was probably all day 3 picks is what teams were offering for him. And then the Cowboys, after not drafting a wide receiver in the NFL draft this year, decided to up their offer to a 3rd round pick, and that's what got the job done. Also, I think it's pretty obvious that the Pittsburgh Steelers were just done dealing with all the immaturity, all the punctuality issues, all the fighting, all the lack of effort that you had to deal with George Pickens. He was an awesome talent. We all understand that. But, to run a really good organization like the Pittsburgh Steelers do, you got to have the right people in your locker room. And if there's somebody that's not showing up to meetings, practices, or even games on time, if he's not showing consistent effort on film, if he's getting personal fouls because he's fighting opponents regularly on the field, that's the type of player they don't necessarily want in your locker room. And the Steelers were more than willing to give him up for a day 2 draft pick. Khan also said that they quote unquote feel good about their current wide receiver room as currently assembled. This is what Khan had to say about the wide receiver group here in Pittsburgh. We wouldn't have done this if we didn't feel good about the receiver situation, about our depth there. I know people make a comparison about last year. It's not even close to being the same. Obviously, we made the investment with DK. We've had another year with some of the young guys and gotten to know them, watch them develop. We added Robert Woods, and Roman's healthy. So you guys can take a look here. And I know a lot of people kind of compare the wide receiver situation last year to this year's situation, but honestly, last year's was a lot worse, guys. You had a true number 1 in George Pickens, who didn't quite get to 1,000 yards receiving, and honestly, 3 touchdowns is unacceptable for a guy like Pickens. And then you get a Calvin Austin III, who had a kind of mini breakout season, I'd say. He led receivers in touchdowns, and honestly, he should have had a lot more yards. Russell Wilson and Justin Fields honestly did not get him the ball nearly enough. I think his route running really took a step forward last year. Van Jefferson obviously was just not very good whatsoever for being a starter pretty much in every single game last year. Only 24 catches for somebody that started like 17, 18 games. It's just absolutely unbelievably bad. And then Mike Williams, you traded for him at the deadline. You got pretty much nothing out of him. He didn't even get double-digit receptions out of him last season. So obviously that's not a very good situation. And although I would say the wide receiver situation right now in Pittsburgh isn't that good, it's not that good compared to some of the other receiving situations around the league, but you got DK Metcalf. Calvin Austin III, I think, is absolutely going to be a part of the solution at this position moving forward. You'd probably rather have him be a wide receiver 3 than a wide receiver 2. do. But then you got Robert Woods, who's a very solid kind of depth receiver, good possession guy, good run blocker, fits what the Steelers want to do. And then you got Roman Wilson, who's got some nice upside, in my opinion. I do think this group is better than what this team had last season. I think Calvin Austin III, by the way, guys, is way better than a lot of people think. Like, people talk about the Steelers wide receiver room like they only have one even decent receiver. Calvin had some really nice moments last year. Not only did his route running take a big step up, in my opinion, but he made some really tough catches in contested situations last year. And of course, he's got the great speed, which allows him to be a vertical threat and a yak threat as well. So his lack of size really does play a factor into just how good he can be, in my opinion. But I think he's actually better on the outside as a Z receiver than he is in the slot. He can do both, which is one of the good things about Calvin. And he can do a lot of things really, really well. But like I said before, you probably want him to be more of a really good number 3 receiver than your true number 2 guy. So that's why the Steelers, at least with the way the wide receiver room is currently constructed, you're really hoping Roman Wilson, who dealt with a lot of injuries last year, didn't really play at all, can really step up and be this team's number 2 receiving option and be a true slot weapon for this team and be the slot weapon that this team drafted him to be. I think he brings the right mentality to the pitch every single game day. He's fantastic at getting open in the short and intermediate levels of the field, and he's got super reliable hands, will pluck that ball right out of the air, doesn't rely on body catching or anything like that. And he's got really, really good acceleration. So I think he's got kind of the chops. If he can develop into this second year, he can be a really good player for Aaron Rodgers or whoever else is quarterbacking this team in 2025. Now, just because I like Calvin and just because I like and I still believe in Roman Wilson doesn't mean that this team shouldn't add another wide receiver. And Khan said himself today that the team is quote-unquote open to adding another playmaker on offense this offseason. This is what Omar had to say on that. If there's an opportunity to add a playmaker on offense, regardless of whether it's a receiver or whatever it is, we're going to look into it. And if it makes sense, it makes sense. So essentially what that means is if an opportunity presents itself to get another good wide receiver, we are going to take it. And Khan also said today that we are trying to win a championship in 2025. So all those people on Steelers Twitter saying they're blowing it up, we're rebuilding, it's a transition year, all this different stuff, Omar Khan disagrees with that. And by the way, Mike Tomlin disagrees with that as well. This is what Khan had to say on the team's focus heading into 2025. Every decision we make is based on trying to win a championship, not only for the future, but this year. We are focused on trying to win a championship this year. I know there's a lot of questions about different things, but there's a lot of time between now and the start of the season. Rest assured, we are trying to win a championship this year. So let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. Will the Steelers acquire another wide receiver this offseason? And if you think that they do, which one do you think they're going to go get? Do you think they're going to go get Romeo Doubs? Do you think they're going to sign like Amari Cooper or Keenan Allen? Do you think they're going to get somebody else? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section for today's pinned comment. In just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Fanatics. And while I'm talking about Fanatics today, let me know which receiver you think the Steelers are going to add this offseason. And with that, let's have a word from our sponsor today at Fanatics, where you guys can go to chatsports.com/DK. That link is down there in the comments and description of today's show. If you click that link and you make a purchase for a brand new Pittsburgh Steelers DK Metcalf number 4 jersey, we get part of the proceeds here at Steelers Talk, and that helps us pay rent. That helps us keep the lights on. That helps us pay for new equipment. That helps us pay for new graphic software, all the different stuff that allows this channel to be as good as it is and to provide you guys free Steelers content every single day. You guys can go chatsports.com/DK if you want to help us out while also getting yourself a brand new Steelers jersey. All right, so now let's move on to our next topic here, where Peter Schrager says that he doesn't think the Packers are going to trade any of the wide receivers they currently have on their roster. He said this on the Pat McAfee show earlier today. You know what the Steelers trading Pickens, there's been a lot of rumors of Doubs with his close relationship to Rodgers. Rodgers used to always praise him when he was a rookie and say how great Romeo was doing. I'm here to tell you, Matt LaFleur, the Packers head coach, like Romeo Doubs is great in our building. So I don't think one of those Packers receivers is necessarily being shipped either just to make Rodgers happy. which has been an assumption online. I think the Packers are really happy with their young wide receiver group. Now, I think that, Pittsburgh was very complimentary about George Pickens in April before the draft. They were saying things like, oh, we're excited to see what he's going to do with DK Metcalf, and we think he's awesome, all this different stuff. So Schrager citing Matt LaFleur saying that he's happy with Romeo Doubs and he likes him in the building means nothing to me, all right? These teams say everything about these players. Everything's positive until you get traded, all right? So, they absolutely could still trade Romeo Doubs, even though they've been very complimentary of him this offseason. And then also, you look at this wide receiver room, they just drafted Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. Somebody's got to go here, all right? You got a lot of mouths to feed in that wide receiver room, and there's a lot of people here that are going to expect to get the ball. Matthew Golden, their first-round pick, is going to want to get the football. Christian Watson, when he eventually gets healthy, he's going to want the football. Jaden Reed, he's going to want the football. Romeo Doubs, he's going to want the football. Dontayvion Wicks, he's going to want the football. Savion Williams, he's going to want the football. So if you have 6 guys in your wide receiver room that all want the football relatively regularly, if you keep all of them, the problem is going to be that you're not going to be able to feed all of them, plain and simply, all right? You're going to have a problem on your hands where there's going to be a lot of people that are unhappy with the amount of times they're touching the football, and I think that the best thing for the Packers to do right now is just to let go of one of these receivers, especially a guy like Doubs, who has had some issues with the organizations in the past, or somebody like Dontayvion Wicks, who I think would fit really well with what the Pittsburgh Steelers are trying to do. Both of these guys are physical wide receivers. Doubs brings great size and really fantastic route running to the table. He's got really quick feet. Not to mention, he already has that connection with Aaron Rodgers, like Schrager mentioned. So I think that the Packers absolutely could come to the table, especially if they get, the right draft pick for Romeo Doubs, like a 5th-round pick. I think they would absolutely come to the table for him. But let's just say, for the sake of argument here, that the Green Bay Packers are just not looking to trade any of their young receivers. All right, well, another option that has kind of come to my attention here is Tampa Bay wide receiver who they drafted last year out of Washington, Jaylen McMillan, because the Buccaneers this year, they just drafted a pair of wide receivers themselves. They just drafted Emeka Egbuka out of Ohio State in round 1, and they also brought in Tez Johnson from Oregon. All right, so you look at this wide receiver room right now, and it's starting to get pretty crowded. Mike Evans, they brought back Chris Godwin this offseason. You got Egbuka, a first-round pick that's going to expect to get pretty heavy playing time this year. You got McMillan, who had a really good rookie season. You got Trey Palmer, who's a really good deep threat. Tez Johnson, another deep threat. Sterling Shepard, another guy that can play in the slot. This team can definitely afford to let go of Jalen McMillan, who is still only 23 years old. He brings some decent size to the table, 6'1", 192. He's not a hulking presence or anything like that, but he's known as somebody that's an inside and outside versatile player that can play the slot or the Z, and he's got some really good ability to win short and intermediate routes, and then he's also really, really good after the catch as well and can be a screen threat. So, he's not the greatest deep threat in the world, but you got DK Metcalf, Calvin Austin III, Roman Wilson, all those guys can get open deep, and he's not the best contested catch guy in the world, but his route running more than makes up for that. So he's somebody that had 8 touchdowns in his rookie season last year with Tampa Bay, and he showed some really good things down the stretch for that offense. Now, the likely price tag for a guy like McMillan is probably an early day 3 pick, all right? Because he was a round 3 pick in his own right, and then my guess is Tampa Bay, if they're going to trade him away, are going to want to get something relatively close to that 3rd round selection if they want to let him go. So somewhere between a round 4 or round 5 pick. Honestly, because the Steelers have 2 4th-round picks next year, because they have that comp pick for, I believe it was Justin Fields and his signing, or was it Russell Wilson? I can't remember. But, you do have 2 4th-round picks heading into next offseason, and I'd be willing to give up one of those for Jalen McMillan, especially if you can't get a guy like Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, or, of course, Dontayvion Wicks from the Green Bay Packers. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comments section. McMillan is somebody that I think could be a legit wide receiver 2 of the future for the Steelers. He's still very young. He's a great route runner. He's good after the catch. A lot of things the Steelers could definitely use in this offense. So let me know down there in the comments. A, for accept or D for decline? Would you give up a 4th-round pick for Jaylen McMillan? I would certainly think about it if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers. That'll be it for our second Steelers Talk news video of the day. Thank you guys so much. If you watched both of our videos today, go ahead and check out our video from earlier. If you haven't already, I talked about a report saying that the Steelers have big plans for Roman Wilson here in 2025. And I also talked about some players to watch for Steelers rookie minicamp this weekend. So, of course, we'll have Steelers content for you guys throughout the weekend, as well as rookie minicamp winners and losers on Monday morning. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Greatly appreciate your guys' support. Have a great weekend. And until next time, guys, here we go, Steelers.